Have you ever sent a message and then stared at your phone, waiting for those three little dots to appear, wondering if she'd reply, wondering if you said too much or not enough? What if the difference between being ignored and being irresistible wasn't about being clever at all, but about understanding a simple, ancient truth, one the Stoics mastered long before smartphones ever existed? And what if the most magnetic texts you'll ever send are the ones that come from calm, grounded self-control, not from chasing validation? Today, we're going to unlock the 3 texting secrets women can't resist. But this isn't about cheap tricks or emotional games. This is about becoming the kind of man whose words, even in digital form, carry weight, presence, and quiet strength. The kind of man who texts with the same power that Marcus Aurelius would speak with if he were alive in the age of instant messaging. So let's open this message together. Not the one in your phone, but the one you send to the world about who you are. Secret 1. The power of deliberate pause. When you feel that urge to reply instantly, to fill the silence, pause. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you understand that value is never found in desperation. In the world of texting, speed often equals scarcity. If you're always instantly available, your time and attention can seem endless. And what's endless rarely feels precious. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote about holding back words until they were necessary, about speaking with intention, not compulsion. Picture this. You receive her text. Maybe it's playful. Maybe it's a little challenging. Instead of rushing in with your first thought, you take a breath. You let the moment breathe. You give yourself space to consider not just what to say, but how to say it in a way that reflects your character. This is not about delay from manipulation. This is about communicating from a place of composure. When you do this, your message carries the weight of choice, not the smell of neediness. And here's the paradox. The less you rush to respond, the more your words feel like they've been chosen with care. The more she'll notice when you finally speak. Play along moment. Right now, think of the last time you replied instantly. What would have happened if you'd waited until you felt calm, confident, and clear? Secret 2. The art of saying less in texting. Words are cheap, which is exactly why you shouldn't be. Seneca once said, "Brevity is the sister of talent." In our context, brevity is the brother of mystery. When you over-explain in text, you drain the power of your presence. When you say less, you invite curiosity. You let her lean in. You give her space to wonder. Think of a text exchange like a dance. If you fill every beat with noise, there's no room for rhythm. A simple, confident reply, maybe just a line, maybe just a playful question, creates more pull than a paragraph of over-eagerness. Example, instead of replying to "What are you doing this weekend?" with a full itinerary, you might simply say, "I've got something interesting planned," and leave it there. Suddenly, you've created intrigue. She's leaning in. She's imagining. It's not about being vague. It's about giving just enough for the conversation to breathe. In Stoic fashion, you master restraint. You stop before you said more than you mean. Play along moment. Look at your last 5. Send messages. How many could you have said in half the words while still keeping your meaning intact? Secret 3. The energy behind the text. This is the one most men miss, because they think texting is all about the words. But here's the truth. The energy behind your message is felt before the words are even read. If you're texting from boredom, from loneliness, from a need to get a reply, it leaks into the tone. If you're texting from self-respect, from fullness, from having a life outside of her, that, too, comes across. The Stoics lived with an inner abundance. Their words were an overflow, not a reach, in texting. Your energy is built before you even pick up your phone. It's in the hobbies you pursue, the friends you invest in, the goals you're chasing. When your life is full, your texts have the tone of someone whose world is already rich, and that's magnetic. Example: you've had a great day, workout, done, project complete, plans with friends ahead. You see a message and you reply, not because you're waiting to be entertained, but because you're simply sharing a moment from your overflowing life. That energy, that fullness, is irresistible. Play along moment. Ask yourself, am I sending this message to connect or to fill a void? If it's the latter, put down the phone until it's the former. So those are the 3 core secrets: the deliberate pause, the art of saying less, and the energy behind the text. But knowing them is one thing. Living them is another. On the next page, we're going to go deeper into how to embody these principles so that every message you send doesn't just get attention, it earns respect. Deepening the Stoic texting mindset. We ended the last section with 3 timeless secrets: the deliberate pause, the art of saying less, and the magnetic energy behind your words. But here's the truth. Even if you know these concepts, in the heat of the moment, your old habits can still take over. You might still catch yourself sending that extra line, hitting send too quickly, or texting just to get a hit of reassurance. That's why today we go deeper, not just into what to say, but into how to be, so that these principles aren't just techniques, but part of your nature. The discipline of waiting without fear. Pausing before you reply is easy when you don't care. But what about when you do care? When it's someone you're genuinely interested in, and the stakes feel higher? That's when the discipline of waiting becomes a true test of self-control. The Stoics spoke often about apatheia, not apathy, but freedom from being ruled by your impulses in the realm of texting. This means you can wait to respond without letting anxiety run the show. You're not staring at your phone, refreshing, overthinking every possible meaning in a last message. You're living. You're moving on with your day, confident that your worth doesn't shrink in the silence. Imagine this scenario. You get a text you've been hoping for all week. The instant urge is to type back immediately. Maybe even to double text if she doesn't reply quickly. Instead, you put the phone down. You breathe. You return to what you were doing before the message arrived. Your mind might scream that you're losing momentum. But the truth is, you're building respect when your actions show you have her. Life beyond her replies. You communicate value without a single word. Next time you feel that urge to respond instantly, set a timer for 10 minutes before you even pick up your phone. Notice how your energy shifts in that space. Curating words like a craftsman. The second secret from page 1 was about saying less. Here, we make it an art form. Think of each message like a sculptor thinks of marble. Every unnecessary word is extra stone. It hides the shape of the masterpiece beneath. When you text less, you aren't being lazy. You're being intentional. You're letting the meaning breathe. You're allowing the other person to fill in the blanks, which makes the conversation collaborative instead of one-sided. Example: she says, "Last night was fun." You could reply with, "Yeah, it was so great. I really enjoyed seeing you. Can't wait to do it again. What are you doing next week?" Or you could simply say, "It was," 2 words, yet loaded with tone, playful, understated, leaving room for curiosity. A man who can say little without losing warmth communicates immense self-assurance. It's the same principle Marcus Aurelius used in leadership. Speak only what's needed, nothing more. Play along moment, scroll through your last 10 messages. Highlight any sentences that could be cut in half without losing meaning. You'll be surprised how much stronger they sound. Owning your energy, not borrowing hers. The third secret from page 1 was about the energy behind your texts. Here's where it gets real. If your day-to-day life is empty, your messages will feel like they're fishing for life from hers. If your life is full, your messages feel like invitations to join an already thriving world. One is heavy. The other is light. One is need. The other is offering. The Stoics didn't just talk about being self-sufficient. They lived it daily. Epictetus reminded his students that if you rely on the approval of others, you've made yourself their servant. In texting, this truth is magnified. When your words are fueled by an active, engaged life, she can feel it, without you ever saying "I'm busy." So fill your days with the things that make you stronger. Work on your craft. Spend time in nature. Push yourself physically. Read something that expands your thinking. Then, when you do pick up the phone, you're sharing from a place of overflow, not from a place of thirst. Small shifts that change everything. All of this comes down to micro decisions. Waiting a few more minutes before replying, trimming down a sentence, choosing to live instead of waiting. Each choice might seem small, but over time, they create an entirely new dynamic. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You start being the man whose words, even in text, feel like they carry gravity. And that's when the magic happens. She starts leaning in. She starts investing more. She starts valuing each message you send. Now that we've solidified these foundations, the pause, the brevity, the energy, we're ready to move into something even more powerful. On the next page, we'll break down the subtle psychological cues that make your texts feel magnetic, even before she reads them. Page 3. The psychology behind magnetic texts. We've built the discipline. We've shaped the words. We've fortified the energy behind them. Now, it's time to step into the psychology that makes your messages not just read, but felt. Because let's face it, the right words at the wrong energy land flat, and the wrong words, said with the right presence, can spark curiosity, attraction, and connection that lasts long after the phone is put down. Tone before text. Most people obsess over the actual words, but women feel tone before they process language. It's in the rhythm of your reply, the choice of pauses, the balance between playfulness and certainty. If your tone carries pressure, even in a short message, she feels it. If it carries freedom, confidence, and lightness, she's drawn in, without quite knowing why. Think of tone as the invisible ink of your messages. It's what makes a hay feel magnetic instead of bland. What makes we should sound like an adventure instead of an obligation. The Stoics understood this in their own way. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the manner in which you approach life, with calm authority instead of frantic grasping. In texting, your tone is the modern-day echo of that calm. Read one of your recent texts out loud, not in your head. Feel the energy in your voice. Would you be drawn to that energy if the roles were reversed? Creating space for her to step into. One of the most magnetic things you can do in conversation, digital or in person, is create space. Not dead space, but intentional, inviting space. It's the space that says, I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm not rushing you. When you fire rapid texts, she feels cornered. When you leave room, she has the freedom to step toward you at her own pace. And when she does, it's her choice, which means she'll value it more. It's a paradox. By giving her freedom, you create closeness. By stepping back, you pull her in. And that's exactly why the Stoics spoke about non-attachment. Because detachment from the outcome makes you more attractive to it. Subtext over text. In high-level communication, what's implied is often more powerful than what's stated outright. A good movie doesn't explain every detail. It lets you connect the dots. Your texts can work the same way. Example, instead of saying, I want to see you Friday night, you might say, I might have found the best rooftop view in the city. It hints, it teases, it invites her imagination to work for you. Subtext plants seeds, and people water the seeds they help plant. The Stoics didn't have a message, but they understood influence. They knew that suggestion often carries more force than command. Take a direct statement you'd normally text. Now rewrite it so it hints at the same thing without spelling it out. Compare how each feels. Anchoring emotions to you. One of the most powerful psychological levers is emotional anchoring. It's the practice of associating certain feelings with you in her mind. If your conversations are consistently infused with humor, calmness, or excitement, those feelings become linked to your presence. So when she's in a mood where she wants to feel that way again, she'll think of you first. And this isn't about manipulation. It's about intentional presence. It's choosing to be a source of value instead of noise. Seneca once said, we should bring joy to those around us, not dependence in texting. That means your presence should lift her mood, not demand it. Respecting the rhythm. Every connection has a natural pace. Some spark fast, some build slow. Trying to speed it up is like forcing a flower to bloom by pulling its petals open. Respecting the rhythm means matching her pace without losing your own. If she's slower to reply, mirror her timing, without resentment. If she's faster, match her flow, without overextending yourself. This creates harmony instead of tension. Asterisk now that you understand the psychological levers, tone, space, subtext anchoring, and rhythm, we can step into the next phase. Page 4. We'll explore the tests that naturally rise in texting and how to handle them like a stoic. Not reacting, but responding with power. Page 4. Passing the tests without losing yourself. Every connection, especially in its early stages, comes with tests. Some are intentional, some are subconscious. Some aren't tests at all but will feel like them if you're not grounded. How you respond to these moments shapes the tone of the entire relationship. Test 1. Delayed replies. You send a message. She takes hours to respond. Your mind spins. Did I say something wrong? Is she not interested? Is she talking to someone else? This is where most men fail. Not because of the delay, but because of how they react to it. A delayed reply is not a challenge to your worth. It's a reflection of her life rhythm. Maybe she's busy. Maybe she's tired. Maybe she's simply taking her time. The Stoic approach: match her pace without resentment. You have your own life, your own focus, your own priorities. When you don't rush back with a defensive tone or desperate energy, you signal that your world doesn't collapse in her absence, and that, paradoxically, makes her more curious to be part of it. The next time you get a delayed reply, wait, at least as long as she did before responding. Use that time to do something meaningful. Test 2. Playful teasing. Teasing can be a sign of comfort, or a way of poking at your confidence. If you flinch, over-explain, or get defensive, you fail the frame. But if you smile, lean into it, and return the energy, you show you can handle playful tension. Example: if she says, "You're always so serious," instead of defending yourself, you might reply, "Only when I'm plotting world domination." It's light, it's playful, it's unshaken. The Stoics practiced this kind of lightness. They didn't take insults personally because they knew their value wasn't on trial in the eyes of others. Test 3. Sudden shifts in energy. Sometimes the conversation will be flowing. Then suddenly she seems colder, more distracted. Most men panic here. They push harder, ask what's wrong, try to fix the vibe. That usually makes it worse. Instead, match the moment without forcing. If she's distant, let the conversation breathe. If she's short in replies, you can mirror her rhythm while keeping your energy intact. Like a skilled dancer, you adjust without losing the beat. Test 4. Subtle challenges to your boundaries. This might look like her canceling last minute, pushing your time, or testing how much you'll accommodate. Your response here sets the tone for respect. If you allow every boundary to be bent, you teach her that your time and priorities are negotiable. The Stoic way is not to punish or withdraw in anger, but to calmly reaffirm your boundaries. If she cancels last minute, you might say, "No worries, let's try again when the timing works for both of us." It's respectful, but it keeps your value intact. Why passing the tests matters. These moments aren't about winning over her. They're about holding your center. Every test you pass with calm confidence reinforces that you are grounded. That your emotions aren't swayed by external conditions, and that's the kind of presence that not only attracts, but sustains attraction over time. In page 5, we move from passing tests to setting the tone, how to lead the conversation so it naturally flows toward connection, attraction, and depth without forcing it. Page 5. Setting the tone without forcing it. You've passed the early tests. You've kept your center. Now comes the art of leading the conversation, not with control, but with intention. Because tone isn't something you set once, it's something you maintain. The energy you bring shapes the exchange. Every message you send carries a tone, whether you realize it or not. If your energy is tense, needy, or overly invested, it bleeds through the words. But when you write from a place of calm confidence, even short replies have weight. Think of it like music. You're not just playing notes, you're setting rhythm. A light, playful message sets a warm tone. A thoughtful, deep message invites reflection, and here's the trick. You can blend both over time. That keeps the conversation dynamic, alive, and unpredictable. Lead without overloading. A common mistake men make is over-investing too soon. Long paragraphs, heavy compliments, constant check-ins. The Stoic principle here is balance. You offer value, but you leave space for her to contribute. If you initiate, do it with something light, intriguing, or situational, not with a flood of attention that she hasn't earned yet. Example, instead of "Hey, how's your day going?" which she's seen 100 times, you might send a photo of the sunset you just caught with the line, "Guess where I am right now." It's a small shift, but it invites curiosity rather than obligation. Avoid the interview trap. Many men unintentionally turn early conversations into job interviews, question after question. No rhythm, no play. You want dialogue, not data collection. Instead of "What do you do for work?" you might share something about yourself first. "I had to give the most awkward presentation today. Now I'm rewarding myself with pizza. What's your go-to comfort food?" Now it's a trade. She gets a piece of you and feels invited to reciprocate. Scroll through your last 5 messages. If more than 3 are questions, relevance with a playful or personal statement before the next one. The subtle art of suggestion. Setting the tone isn't about pushing toward a date. It's about planting seeds. If you're talking about travel, casually mention a spot in your city that feels like another country. If you're discussing food, reference a place you've been meaning to try. This isn't about locking plans immediately. It's about letting the idea of seeing each other feel like a natural progression. Why it works. People are drawn to those who lead with intention, but without force. When your tone is grounded yet playful, when you leave space for her to invest, she feels both comfortable and intrigued. Good. You're not chasing, you're creating a world she wants to step into. On page 6, we'll explore how to shift gears, moving from light banter to deeper emotional connection in a way that feels effortless and real. Page 6. Shifting from banter to depth. We've warmed them up with play. We've kept the energy light. But if all you ever do is stay in the shallow end, you'll never build the kind of connection that matters. Is someone's mind linger on you after the conversation ends? This is where you shift from banter to depth, from the surface level into waters where most people are too afraid to swim. It starts small. You notice a detail, not just about what they're wearing or how they look, but about the way they say something. Maybe their eyes light up when they talk about a certain hobby. Maybe their tone drops softer when they mention family. That's your cue. Lean in. Not physically at first, but mentally. Ask something that invites a story, not just a fact. Instead of, "How was your weekend?" you say, "You mentioned you went hiking. What's the best trail you've ever done? And why?" See the difference. One question is polite. The other makes them relive a moment. And when they relive it, you're there in their memory. But depth isn't about interrogation. It's about making space for them to open up. Let silences breathe. Resist the urge to fill every pause, because in those pauses, the truth shows up. And here's the Stoic twist. When you give them room to share, you learn their worldview without forcing yours. That's where connection becomes genuine. You're not just trading words, you're trading perspective. You can even share a small vulnerability yourself. Not a dramatic confession, just a human detail. Something that says, "I'm not perfect, but I'm present." That reciprocity is what turns playful conversation into something magnetic. This shift from banter to depth, it's where attraction stops being about entertainment and starts being about resonance. And resonance is what makes them want to hear from you again. Now that you've built that deeper rhythm, you have to keep the flow alive without slipping into the trap of over-tea, texting or oversharing. That's where the art of leaving space for desire comes in. And on the next page, we'll break down exactly how to do it without games, but with mastery. Final reflection, the stillness after the words. When all the lines have been sent and all the laughter has faded into quiet. When the banter has slowed and the screen has gone dark. There's a moment where you're left alone with yourself. And in that moment, all the techniques, all the crafted words, all the magnetic energy you've built, they mean little without one thing. Your own rootedness. Because no message you send will carry weight if you're hollow inside. No charm will last if it's only a mask for insecurity. This is the silent truth the Stoics would nod to. The reminder that all outer connection flows from inner stability. Marcus Aurelius wrote about being like the rock against which the waves break, unmoved, steady, whole. And in the context of relationships, that rock is your grounded self. You've learned how to spark curiosity without overselling. You've practiced moving from the shallow end of small talk into the deep waters of meaningful exchange. You've mastered the rhythm, knowing when to speak, when to listen, when to hold the silence like a precious thing. But here's the deeper layer. Every one of these steps mirrors the work we do within, because we also must learn to be curious about our own thoughts without judgment, to ask ourselves deeper questions instead of skimming over the surface, to leave space for desire even in our own ambitions, not rushing, not grabbing, but letting things mature in their own time. The art of connection isn't just about the other person, it's about how you hold yourself. If you can be present without clinging, if you can be warm without needing constant validation, if you can share without performing, This is the quiet confidence that can't be faked. It's why some people say almost nothing, yet carry an energy that fills the room. It's why you can walk away from a conversation knowing you've left a mark, not because of a clever line, but because of the way you made someone feel seen. And as you step back from this journey we've taken through the pages, remember that every strategy is just a tool. The real mastery is in how you use it, and more importantly, in who you are when you put the phone down. So be intentional with your words, be generous with your attention, and be ruthless with yourself when you catch your mind spiraling into the traps of overthinking or chasing approval. Let your silences speak, let your boundaries breathe, and let your presence be the anchor in every interaction. Because in the end, what draws people to you is not the performance of connection. It's the quiet strength that comes from someone who knows their worth, who can give without losing themselves, who can walk away without bitterness. The Stoics never taught us to suppress our humanity, only to direct it, only to ensure that our emotions are our allies, not our masters. And in this way, your texting, your conversations, your relationships all become part of a larger practice, a practice of being clear, calm, and grounded in every part of life. This is why we've walked through curiosity, through depth, through the discipline of space, through the art of timing, and through the strength of knowing when to stop speaking. Because all of these, at their core, are about mastery, not of others, but of yourself. When you carry that mastery, you don't need to win every moment. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You simply show up, fully present, fully grounded, fully you. And that's where the power is. That's where attraction becomes natural, where relationships stop feeling like a performance and start feeling like an honest exchange. So, as we close this journey, I'll leave you with the simplest challenge the Stoics might offer. Go and practice, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but now. Practice presence in your next conversation, practice curiosity in your next question, practice silence in your next pause, and watch how the world begins to respond. Not just to your words, but to your energy. Because when you become the person who can speak with weight and be silent with ease, you already won. If this spoke to you, if you felt the shift somewhere inside, then join me in the next video as we go even deeper into the art of influence without force, presence without pretense. Hit subscribe, tap the like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And until we meet again, stay steady, stay grounded, stay unshakable.